Hi everyone, it's me Nandini the Shakta Oracle, and I'm making this video to talk about candle magic again, but this time for homelessness. And I recently worked with a candle, and when it finished, I got this message in my feed. I saw a post by Uhuru, at Uhuruverse, I'll tag them below, talking about this article on CNN, which was sharing that there was going to be about 6 or 7,000 homeless people, offered shelter and care, and this was going to affect Skid Row. Which, if for those of you who are in America or who are aware of Skid Row and the violence and devastation, and just like the sorrow of that space, like the sadness, the results of white supremacy and how that looks like, and how it affects people's lives. And I, for many years, have been like invested in praying and sending Reiki and like figuring out ways to contribute, regardless of what I was able to contribute financially. But if you are able to contribute financially, do it. If you're able to contribute with your time, whether it be volunteering or signing petitions or like reaching out to appointed officials to make changes, whether in your city or in spaces where there really needs to be that change, do it. And also for those of us that are spiritual, witches, that work with magic, that channel a lot of heavy energy, it's not just time to be manifesting your soulmate or like things like that. It's also time for you to know how to use all that big energy that you've been cultivating, meditating, and honing in on. And one of the things that I did was like I actually, and this is, so first of all, this is big energy, right? Like when we talk about homelessness, we're talking about a very, very big energy. So one candle obviously is not going to do it, but it will inspire a lot. Okay, so I got a pretty big candle. It was like it looks as tall as the 7-day one, but it's like double the width. And you can get that if there's like, discount or 99-cent stores around you. And it has like a cross on it. It usually doesn't have any like images. If you want to work with a white candle with like a deity, that's fine too, but the bigger the candle, the better. And what I did was that I also bought, like, I happened to buy something else that day, and like just being mindful of anything that you purchased or like anything that you recently got that might be associated with when you finally sit down to do this spell. For me, it was deodorant, which I thought was really random. Like, I never wear deodorant, but I felt called to buying it. And I feel like it's associated with a lot of things around homelessness. For me, I have been homeless myself in the past, and the effects of that feel like they're tied to like, a history somewhere in my family, whether through colonialism and indentureship or before that, because it's very possible, since I don't really know the history of my family, but I do know how some folks were homeless or nomadic, or really poor that ended up becoming indentured and sent to the Caribbean from South Asia. So whatever I have inside there from like that trauma from like past lives and this life accumulated and also triggered and activated by the reality of that we're currently living in when it comes to people being homeless. And there's a lot of people that are homeless for many different reasons, regardless of how that happened. Even if by them running away from home, which is really common, that there are a lot of young kids who are being heavily abused, and they feel like they really can't turn to anywhere else. And not judging, not making the spell with judgment, like honoring the fact that you don't really know, and not being like a white supremacist by judging people with addictions, okay? Because you really don't understand that. And if you did, you'd have a lot more compassion and understanding of the systems that create addiction. Anyway, big candle, okay? And what you're gonna do is, sometimes they're like stuck to the sides at the top. And what you're gonna do is take a knife, and remember, this is big energy. So things are gonna try to come back up at you. You wanna be in your higher power. You wanna pray, meditate, wherever you need to be. Call in your protective deities. If you don't have that, then don't try this spell because it's a pretty big energy. Or do it in a group of people where you can fortify, because it does need to be. When you go and battle something psychically, don't think that things aren't gonna try to come back and try to attack you if we're trying to make change. Okay, that is how it works. Spiritual activism isn't just like, oh, I'm just like breathing and meditating somewhere. Like, spiritual activism means that you've been working on fortifying your warriorship astrally. And that's not a joke, and it's not something that you can just like throw out there. It's like actual work. And a lot of it comes from like healing ourselves and then coming up against like the demonic and parasitic energies that like hold on and latch on to like what we see manifest into, you know, ailments, whether illnesses or, and this is like not illnesses of like chronic illnesses that we have that manifest, but necessarily more like illnesses such as white supremacy, political issues that arise, like violences that arise in our lives that affect people. And we'll get into how there, I mean, in another video, how there's like many layers to our awarenesses on physical plane, right? So this is coming towards that in the spiritual world, right? So what I did is I took a knife and I started to carve around where the wax meets the glass. Okay, and you're doing that intentionally. You want to like remove a little bit. You want there to be like some air, some energy around that. And what you're doing is like you're attacking, you're coming at it. You're making some pressure and sharpness known, because you want to like really dig in, right? This is going to be the energy of it, is that you're taking a stab at it. Okay, you're taking a jab at it because you want it to move. Okay, and anything that's going to come back at there will know that that's what you're coming there with. And then when you're done doing that, some of the wax will come out. You want to wash it off or wipe it off. Turn it upside down and put on cold water. And on the bottom side of the glass, right, you're going to put the cold water over it. And while you're doing that, like visualizing what you attach to the ideas of homelessness, right? Like whether you yourself have been homeless or houseless, whether you've been experiencing, you know, any aspects of white supremacy that are attached to that, whether you've known people that are, whether you've read about it, whether you have prejudices of your own, you want to wash a lot of that away, right? Because these thoughts have to come from a place of centeredness, of love, compassion, and like, you know, righteous rage, sacred rage, you know? So a lot of that needs to like come into play, and so you need to move those thoughts around, and acknowledging them as well. And then when you do that, you're going to flip it back over, and you're going to keep going at it now, like making markings in the wax itself, okay? And this is just like the process that I went through. So people do candle magic in many different ways, and, you know, work safely and do what feels right to you. If this doesn't feel like the kind of magic you want to do, then don't do it. And I'm sorry, I'm just like looking through my notes real quick. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I saw like taking the knife to it, like carving things, tapping into the fear of homelessness or any associations, any images that arise. And then what I did was I actually, after I cleansed it and moved on, like I also paid attention to what was happening, right? Because there were things going on at the time. Like I saw certain animals like showed up, you know, random things started happening, and I started to build these different associations. And one of the things that happened was that my cat showed up in the room, who like works with me a lot, and pigeons. Pigeons never come to my window. I've lived in this building like on and off since I was 5 years old, and I'm like 33 now. Okay, I never see pigeons on my windowsill, and especially not that windowsill. And 2 pigeons came, so there was a lot of energy around that, and like the New York City pigeon, and like the ways that we think about pigeons, right? Like there's a lot of like negative associations and like things like that. So there was a lot coming up around there that I didn't need to unpack right away, but I did stop and observed and like acknowledge what was going on. And then I took an old red flannel shirt that I'd had from a thrift store, and I wrapped up the candle with the deodorant, and then I left it in the darkest corner of my house. So that means it's a place that never gets any light. It's like shadowy, dusty, like whatever, like space where it can be like sort of in its own little cocoon. And you want to put it into that place, because then when you pull it out, what you're going to do is you're going to pull stuff out that was hidden in the shadows out into the light, okay? And you're going to give it light by lighting it. And this is an intention you need to think about. Intentions are super important when you're doing these things. So I let it soak for days, right? Like however long you feel like you want to leave it there to absorb whatever has been hidden. Okay, that means like things that white supremacists are doing. That means like the way that laws have been being passed, and the ways that society works, and the way that people treat people that are homeless. Like this is like a lot of different aspects of it, the thoughts that you have, that you manifest out into the world, about your prejudices, about your pains. And also for some of us who have been poor or grew up in poor families or that have been homeless, like it's going to help heal those things as well, because we do develop like a strange like urgency to certain things in our lives, whether it's like, you know, or like ailments around food and like shelter and things like that, or fear of receiving, or a lot of trauma and pain that we carry from those experiences. So, and like the fear of returning, right? So there's a lot of stuff that will come up and come to light and be cleared if we're able to do that. And so I wrapped it, I put it away, and I left it there. And then the next day, or the next time that I took it, I actually did a cleansing bath, right? So you can do this if you want to, you don't have to. You can just take a sea salt bath if that's what's accessible. You can just pray on like boil some water, whatever teas you have, if you have tea or whatever herbs, or like you can even just literally just pray on water in a bucket and then pour it over yourself, intentionally asking your ancestors, and like just pushing the water down. Like you want to push everything down and away from your center, down your legs, and just washing and wiping away anything, because you want to come to this spell work, like, you know, centered. And then I prayed with the candle. So I held the candle, and one of the ways to do that is like you just put your left hand underneath the bottom and your right hand on the top, and you hold it, and you can hold it to your heart and really think about this. Like really, really think about it. Center yourself in compassion and love, so that can be an activating point. If you have rage, if you have fear, all those things can come into it, but like try to center as best as you can without forcing yourself or being inauthentic, to be in a compassionate space, knowing that this issue needs to end, and that homeless people deserve places to live and care and food, and like deserve happiness and attention. And this has been an issue going on for so freaking long, that has affected so many people negatively, and that it cycles through us, right? And it affects everyone, so it really is important to look at. So what I did was I created, and you might not, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, so this is the candle, and I wrote "End White Supremacy," and I wrote it with paint. You can use like a permanent marker, but I painted onto it "End White Supremacy," and I put a lightning bolt like going into the white supremacy. So for people who are into tarot, and if you're not, you can look up the Tower card. The Tower card is the image that you'll want to imagine as you're doing that. You'll make 2 arrows going down and up next to where it says white supremacy, and up at the top it should say "a home for everyone." So I wrote "a home for everyone" along the rim of it. So "a home for everyone's" coming down, white supremacy ending is going up, and then there's a circle locking both arrows, okay? And when you do that, what you're going to do also is you're going to be charging it with the Tower card. So either the image of the Tower card can be in your head, or you can read about it, or you can look it up online, you can have the card out on there, but it has to be the one that has a tower that's being struck by lightning, where the crown is falling off and 2 white people are falling off and their crowns are falling and everything, because we really want to acknowledge that the Tower card was created, the image of it was created in the Waite Smith deck by Pamela Coleman Smith, who is a person of color, who's a black woman, a bisexual black woman, and that she made that image. So it's really powerful. She's like locking something in through time and space, and like to use that energy of the Tower card to connect to that, you know, to Black liberation, you know. And this is also really important to creating this. On the other side, you're going to write Earth, and you can write God, Goddess, Spirit, however you want to do. I wrote God, and I put a line, and I put Earth underneath, and then that's on the other side. So when you flip it around to the other end, and then during the meditation, you seeing the tower, imagining it, imagining the lightning striking the structure and kicking off white people from the tower, and then we see a sense of like revolution, prediction that like Pamela Coleman Smith actually made. Like I really think that, you know, she like predicted this and predicted many stages of revolution through her psychic art as a black woman. And seeing that image could be really helpful right now for like creating the power within it. And I don't know if I actually if I kept it still on my altar. Yes, so if you have, so this is the third part. For some of you, this um, may resonate. For some of you, it might not. So for those of us who have actually experienced homelessness, this section of it is for self. So you want to really, first of all, be of service, right? So like when we're thinking about this, we want to send service out to others who are dealing with this. We want to like put that into that space. Unless you yourself right now are dealing with that, then you can like send it out to others and then come into self and be like, I want to heal the things that I've endured when it comes to homelessness. I want to heal the treatment that I've experienced and the treatment others have experienced, and the ways that that's shaped my understanding of the world, my fear of the world, my pain, my PTSD. And one last thing was the affirmation that I found, that a friend of mine, Monchi, who also works with TGT, Triple Goddess Tarot, follow us on there for all the queer and trans like POC who are doing healing work. And so there was one affirmation that she had actually given me, and it said, I follow my higher power without hesitation. And so I set everything up on the altar, and I said the affirmation, and then I lit the candle, and I lit it very intentionally. And so one of the things with lighting a candle is that you can like focus on the flame and put all that intention into it. You can let it be if you're overthinking it, if you think you're going to involve all these other thoughts in it. But yeah, I hope that this was helpful. It's so magical to like do this work and then like immediately get news that there's something happening. And it's not just because you lit that one candle, but it's because you were assisting in like however many people were assisting at that time together, physically, spiritually, mentally, whether they're putting their attention, their time, their energy, their whatever they're channeling, whatever they can do, whatever they're able, what's in their ability, their range of ability is being used towards pushing back at this negative and violent experience that a lot of folks have endured. And then to see that, like get that news and to see that is really powerful. It's really beautiful, and it's like heartwarming, and it's affirming to the power of spirit. So thank you for watching this, for being interested in this kind of work, and for being interested in using magic for revolution. I love you.